Let's see. I'll wait till everyone gets a chance to hop in here, making sure that we're live. All right,
Man,
awesome.
Oh yeah, let's talk. I got the Stream Deck. I got the Stream Deck recently from Elgato. This thing is so handy. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's so handy. It's so good.
That's awesome.
Just made a video about it today.
Did it come with the icons already on there, like pre-made, or could you put your own custom like icons in the buttons?
Yeah, those are small, tiny little displays, so you can use whatever picture you want. Because what I did,
awesome.
You can Google for icons of, for example, I searched for an icon of my microphone, of my camera, and it looks exactly like it looks in reality, and you just put it in. I mean, the resolution is not crazy high, but it's just a key, it's just a button. It looks pretty nice, and it's super handy, super handy.
That's awesome because I've used basically, what was it? I had a gaming peripheral that I ended up using previously, and it wasn't the best.
Yeah, and since it's a display, they are sometimes even animated, and you can even use this to show the buttons as, for example, an equalizer spectrum, so you can see it moving, or it shows you the CPU usage in real time, and a lot of more stuff. So cool, so cool.
Well, it was an Elgato. What was the
Stream Deck?
Oh, here we go. Okay, cool.
So there are 3 versions. There is one with 6 buttons, but the 6 buttons isn't enough to do anything with it. I have the 15-button version, and then there is an XL version, but that costs like $250. That has 32 buttons. That I wanted that, but they told me they don't have any in stock, so I just got the normal one. But I'm super happy with that alone, because for the last like 6 years I used like a cheap little keyboard and used auto hotkey and macros and all, and it was a pain in the ass. So this is super, because you can do stuff with this that you can't do with a normal macro or a hotkey or anything, because it has direct access to specific apps like OBS or Spotify. Super handy thing.
I'm trying to see. It looks like
it should be like 130. It should be like 130 roughly.
Oh man, they're all third party. Let's see. Whew, they're going for a little higher right now here.
Yeah. I guess due to the conversion makes kind of sense.
Well, and
no,
also
it's 140 here, 140. Yeah, with dollars that's actually the typical price.
Right. Yeah. So, and I think also it's just kind of out of stock with their main stuff. So it's like third party vendors. That's awesome.
What I would actually wish for if they would. But I guess but it shouldn't actually make it that much more. Nobody needs power. No, but what I wanted is maybe a wireless version, but then it would need to have a battery, and then it would be a lot more expensive. So no, it's actually fine like this. The cable doesn't bother me, so it's cool.
By the way, I wanted to say hi to Mr. Pulpfit, Nick in the chat here. Actually, you also might want to check out Nick's. Nick's been doing some streams, and I forgot Nick. You've got to tell me what the name of that game is, that racing game that you've been playing. So he's got an ultra wide monitor that he's got set up, and so he's been doing some racing game streams. But he's kind of had to cut it down a little bit, because whenever he streams it shows up like cinematic widescreen, like 2:1 aspect ratio. Yeah. But it's so cool though how it's set up, because you get the whole peripheral vision of it, and I need to figure out what game that was. Here, I'm going to go ahead and get that. But yeah, it was pretty cool though. But yeah, we're just kind of
does he use a steering wheel?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my issue. If I use a steering wheel, I'm so bad. I don't know why, but I can't use it on a console, on a PC. There, I have to use a gamepad, and I know I'm definitely not as good as someone with a wheel. But whenever I try to use a wheel, but I guess the last one that I used was like 10 years ago, I was so bad. I was so slow.
Well, and it's like I don't have a wheel. I have a friend who does, and he and his dad ended up like 10 years ago ended up building. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know there was an app.
Yeah, there is an app, but as far as I know, it's actually kind of a subscription app, so you have to pay monthly, and I don't like that because I think it's like $3 or $5. But the problem is also, the great thing about this one is that you can feel, you can touch the buttons before you actually look at it. But if you have to have on your phone, you have to kind of look where you are typing it. So I don't like that. And especially since you can't just pay once and it's done. I think it was a subscription base. But there are like alternative apps that aren't maybe quite as powerful that you can get for like $3 or $5 if you maybe just want to try it out for a while.
That's pretty nice. So, like, because one thing I've been using for Streamlabs whenever I do like a game stream that's not using StreamYard, there's a Streamlabs app that's basically like a remote app that allows you to go in and control all the settings in Streamlabs OBS, which is pretty nice.
I've actually totally kind of lost track, but what exactly is the difference between the normal OBS, Streamlabs OBS?
Streamlabs OBS it's basically the same. It just has has a bunch of peripheral features essentially built into it. So like you can have like little widgets that pop up.
Okay. Then
especially, it's like a lot of times it really helps Twitch streamers a lot because you can have like little widget stuff come up, and now they're trying to monetize it more, which is annoying, but whatever. But it works pretty well. You can also now with the pay for version, you can do multi platform streaming simultaneously. But that's like their premium option now. So I'm not like super concerned about that, to be honest. But it is what it is. It's pretty interesting though. But we've got, so back to the steering conversation. Nick Nick does not have the widescreen. He has a triple monitor set up. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I have, and I actually never used it in a single game because I never really knew how to set it up and never really tried for some reason. But I think I would have had the hardware to push that to that many pixels.
Oh man, it's crazy. What do you guys think about here, let's see, Mr. Pulp Fiction is saying, what do you guys think about mini LEDs?
Asking Pulp Fiction, can you put a link into that, because I don't know which one that would be. I would like to know what kind of notebook it is.
LED.
But I also have to say I've seen a few mini LEDs on IFA last year, but I actually have no idea how it would look a little bit up close, because those were like 100-inch TVs or so, and you couldn't really say something about it.
I see the Creator 17 laptop. Let's see. This was back in January, so this is an old article. I don't know really, because I guess it looks like more dimming zones, which I like. Yeah, I think that's nice.
I think I would wait a little bit with those mini LEDs, because I think it's like first gen for the consumer market. I think this needs a little bit time to kind of mature. But maybe it will be just no burn-in and so on. So it's micro LED supposed to have the benefits of OLED without the downsides, and the same also goes for LCD. So it should be the sweet spot. But the tech is pretty new.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what impact it has on battery life.
Yeah.
Because that'll be interesting to see if there is an impact.
And what's also actually weird, at first everyone was talking about micro LED. But I guess micro LED is a little bit further into the future, and they are going for mini LED. Maybe micro LED is way too expensive for now. But
yeah. There's also one thing too. Was that Nick was saying that the steering wheel, what was it? It was more natural for him. Well, and he was talking about pedals too, like the pedals, and he has like racing pedals as well, but also like shifting, getting a good steering wheel with like the shifting pedals on it is pretty nice too.
See, that's what I always thought as well when I was younger, didn't drive a car yet. I thought maybe I can't really do it well because I never driven a real car. But when I drive a car, I mean, the way you drive on a normal road is just not the same as really racing. So if I would have some racing experience, things might change. But normally just driving from A to B just to get to work or so on doesn't really help you in a racing game with a wheel. At least that's what I've noticed.
Yeah, there's like it depends on if there's force feedback too, I think, and then there's it just depends kind of. There a friend of mine, I forgot which brand it was. The one that he has is like was made by a car manufacturer.
I think Trustmaster has a very good one, as far as I heard.
Oh yeah, they make great products. There's also the Across the Podcast is in the chat, so I think that's Sam actually hopping in. Hey buddy, they've actually got a show this afternoon, and they've got a crazy lineup too coming up. Like they've got a whole bunch of guests, and eventually, what was it? They just announced that they're gonna have here. Here I'm just pulling it up. They're gonna have. I need to figure out which day it is. But they're gonna have John Rettinger and Super Saf on the
same
time. Yeah,
okay. John Rettinger. That's big.
Yeah, that's big. It's not going to be today, but it's they've got a whole bunch of people. They're going to have August 24th. Thank you, Sam. It's
I can't stand Super Saf. I don't know. This guy just seems so not my.
I think it'll be fun to get the contrast of personalities. That's all one between Sam and Matt, and also the guests.
Yeah, I've actually met John Rettinger. it was the year I was on CS. What was it, like 2 years ago or last year? I don't know. Time flies by so fast. And he was. I didn't really talk much with him, but he seems really nice. Really nice.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's going to be pretty small.
Cool. Like every YouTuber, whenever I saw a YouTuber in real life, I thought, oh, man, they are even smaller than me, and I'm tiny. So that's pretty. It's pretty odd.
Yeah, there's. It's gonna be. It's gonna be fun seeing that. They're also gonna have Adam Dead Technology on board, and it's gonna be fun. There's so let's see. We've also got one thing I wanted to hit on a little bit too before we moved on from the steering wheel discussion. Is I mentioned a little bit too. I've used for any racing games like controllers that have gyroscope sensors in there kind of do help a little bit too. I found.
Wait, you drive like this?
Yeah, I'll drive like that with it, or I'll use either the. Oh, I'm probably gonna unplug this. This thing's been plugged in for like 3 days. PS4 controller or a Steam controller.
Do you remember? I think it was in at least PlayStation 1 times. I don't know about if 2, but there was this Necon controller, which was a controller that was kind of split in the middle, but the middle part was twistable. And for racing games, you could move it like this and turn. And people who used it said this was so great for racing games before we had wheels on consoles and so on. And we had analog buttons before PlayStation had it and Xbox. And it was supposed to be the ultimate racing experience back then. But it felt so odd because I think I had one in the store in hand once. And I thought, this feels odd because you're usually used to driving like this, but not this. So it felt a little bit odd. Right. But maybe it was cool.
That was such a wonderful era of crazy controllers that you could find everywhere. Like, what was it? LGR, the Lazy Game Reviews, did like a review on a controller that was using like some old 80s mouse tech where it was like a ball. So like you had the controller, then you had a ball that you kind of gripped, and like it wasn't comfortable whatsoever, but you could be really precise with it, which was interesting. Apparently like this sort of thing was used a lot, like this type of mouse was used a lot in like industrial settings or like medical settings.
I had something similar. It was like a 3D mouse that I got for CAD construction and so on. I mean, I just tried it in those apps to kind of just check what it does, but since I never used something like that, I was completely overwhelmed and it felt so odd because I had no idea how to move all. But yeah, I guess in some certain specific cases it makes a lot of sense to go.
By the way, that game that Nick was playing it's Forza Horizon 4 and Forza Motorsport. So yeah, those are the ones. And as long as it's a racing game that has the track from Top Gear, it's going to be good, right? There's one thing also. Since the last time that we ended up having a show, I picked up the LG V60. So I've gone away from Team OnePlus now.
What I actually wanted to ask you, why do you have 2 surface loops? Is it because otherwise it would fall off?
Well, it's just like it's just a little more secure because I also am putting this in and out of my pocket a lot.
But it looks so off with the 2 colors.
Yeah, so when I was on eBay, I went and ordered, and it was supposed to be both were supposed to be black, and then they sent 2 different colors, and I was too apathetic to go and
I get it. I know that.
Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some more of this vinyl, and then I'm just going to put it over the top of these 2 little bits, and so that's different. And then that way, I can always tell which side's up. I guess I don't know. It's whatever works, really.
Is this an official case? What you're using?
Yeah. This is the official dual screen case on there. So Juan was nice enough to send me a powered stylus. And so it's basically a Note right now, but it's pretty good. Like I've genuinely enjoyed it. I basically rock this in the case most of the time, just like with this case. Finally, LG finally got more of those magnetic adapters in stock. Finally, because like the ones between the G8X and the V60 are different. And so when they finally went on stock on their website, because like people were selling them on eBay for like $50, and it's an $8 dongle, like adapter. And so whenever it became available, I went and bought like 4 of them just in case. So that's fine. It's pretty good. But yeah, like I ended up getting a different car mount so I could actually have both screens set up, which I'm sure is not the best practice to do while you're driving, but generally it's for like having like maps and then music up at the same time or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, yeah. Because I was kind of laughing. Sam, it's not that I don't feel dual screens. I personally, I don't work that multitasking way, because I've noticed that on my triple monitor setup, I use one after another. I can't multitask, and on a phone or on a laptop or so, not at all. So I like the idea, and I would like to use it, but my brain just doesn't work kind of in 2 ways.
Well, it's like, I will say it has been nice for like multitasking is like the big thing I use it for.
I'm sure.
Like, and then like on the home screen, I just set up like widgets that I don't usually use on the second screen. And it's nice for if I'm like go and like, honestly, like treating it like a little netbook where if I'm like, okay, I'm going to go cook some dinner. I'll just put on a video and I'll set it down and play, and then I'll have like Discord down in the bottom screen or something like that.
Actually, a question. I mean, I guess is there a lot of implementation towards a dual screen from LG, or is mostly Android doing all the stuff? And what would you wish for Android to maybe insert to make the dual screen kind of more usable?
I think a lot of it is like there is some underpinning of Android in there, but I think a lot of the actual integration is LG.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's like if I'll go up, let me see if I can do this so you can see. You'll pull this up, and you've got some note level stuff that you can do, which is pretty nice. You can swap it. You can do like the 3-finger gesture to move one screen to the other screen. It's pretty nice. Like it's really not that bad. The only thing that I really don't like, Sam is exactly right, is allow other keyboards. So you can use other keyboards on this. However, like there is a mode where if you're using the LG keyboard and I open, like if I have it in this orientation and I open it up here, the LG keyboard will appear full screen down at the bottom, kind of like a little, notebook. But you can't do that with anything but the LG keyboard, which is not a great keyboard.
Yeah.
But the nice thing though is like the way LG's set up a little bit, it's super, super easy to just like press this and pick a different keyboard and then switch back. So it's not that much of a pain in the butt. There's one thing I will say that I wish that they would build in a little bit more is, so there's a third-party app called Wide Mode, which allows you to basically put anything across both screens. And it's not ideal for everything, but it's nice though, because
can you actually show that? I would like to see the seam and the borders.
Yeah, here. Let me.
You guys keep showing off the phone. Only he has one. I don't. Germany doesn't get an LG, not the high-end ones.
Here, let's see.
I don't actually know. Oh, it's so long since I reviewed an LG.
So like I can do that. Oh, hold on, let me get away from
okay, yeah.
So I can do that if I want to, which is nice. But then
which keyboard is this? Is this the LG one or is this another one?
And in that view, you can it's easier with the LG keyboard, but you can do the same thing with SwiftKey by going in manually. You have to go. The problem is you have to do it manually, but it's pretty quick to do it. But you can set it to do like the 2-thumb typing, and it works pretty well for like especially social media.
But think about it: if the Microsoft Duo or whatever it's called comes out, and Microsoft is developing SwiftKey, maybe they will integrate that, and then it will be a part of SwiftKey and work directly. I really hope so, because I can accomplish. I'll show you. I can accomplish the same thing. Oh yeah, this is kind of janky across
Oh, hold on, I'm trying to do it where I'm not getting. There we go. It looks a little bit janky that way, but if I end up going into type, let's see. Let me get it. So, because basically I have to go in, press a button, go into.
I don't know. SwiftKey always worked great for me.
Oh yeah, I love SwiftKey, and so this is with SwiftKey set up.
The only issue that I have with SwiftKey is with those bigger phones. For some reason, I so often don't hit the space bar, but the period button. For some reason, and it happens so often. So I would wish I could maybe change the layout a little bit, or maybe just the size of the space button. Because when I had the OnePlus Nord, which I actually still have but should return, it was a little bit narrow, and then it didn't happen anymore because it was this little bit smaller.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like SwiftKey has been my go-to for multiple years now, the better part of a decade. Though I've gone and tried. I tried Gboard because Day is actually a Gboard guy. I just once you get keyboards are one of those things where once you get used to it, you really don't want to go away from it.
Absolutely. I mean, I tried Gboard like maybe half a dozen of times, and I always find when I tried first a few cool new features or a few things that work pretty nice. But after a day or two, I just noticed that it doesn't work for me. It just doesn't kind of use the button layout that I want to. It doesn't kind of suggest me words like this. Yeah, just not my thing. Yeah. And swipe, I never got behind it. Nah.
Well, and it's interesting. Like I'll use swipe in a pinch if I need to. But one thing that's interesting I've noticed is so I have the beta version of SwiftKey, and then there's like the non-beta version, and the beta version. So the beta version, I can go higher up, like it's bigger, but then if I switch to the this is the regular one. But if I switch to the beta one, it's shorter than the others. I can't make it as tall as.
Maybe I should try it.
Beta version. Yeah,
because that's my issue with so many times that I can't get it big enough. So maybe I should try to get back to the original one if that's really a thing.
It surprised me. It genuinely surprised me, and that they would be different. And my big fat thumbs, I really like having the bigger keys, especially when this big.
The way I cheated to make it bigger is if you set your DPI really small, and then go to change the size of Gboard, you can go way high. Of SwiftKey, you can get way higher. But if you have it set, you can change your DPI and the size stays big. I mean, it goes only to a certain point, but this way you can get it bigger, at least a little bit, than it normally would be possible to.
That's pretty awesome, actually. Oh man, yeah. There's, it's interesting. I really like the experimental nature of it, and I think what it came down to for me is as far as switching from my OnePlus, which from like the software is great on OnePlus, but I guess the folding screen tech that LG has, just the hardware is just more appealing. Just it's more exciting, I think, because I've been getting so bored with stuff.
But did you actually use the V60 or standalone? And how do you like it in that way, or is it strictly dual for you?
I'm probably using about 80 to 85% with the dual screen, and then the rest without. I've used it some without, and it's fine. It's fine. It's a little less exciting without it, but it's a fine phone. You get longer battery life with the second screen, but without the second screen, but it's still a good phone. It's only basically without here. Let me take it out of this then. Without the case. Let's see. Without the case, it's about. See, look, I have two different phones I can actually compare. We don't have to go to that website. Here we go. So here we go. It's like they're very close in size, but the V60 is slightly taller.
It's taller,
but it's almost. Oh, there we go. It's almost the same width though. So, yeah, it's like I like the flat screen too.
Is it 20 by 9 or what is it?
That's a
It's definitely taller than the OnePlus, so it should be. But the OnePlus is already 19.5 by 9, if I'm not wrong. So this should be at least 20, if not 20.5 by 9.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what
does it actually have? I'm totally out of the thing, but does it have a punch hole or a notch?
Oh,
or what does it have?
It's actually a notch. It's basically hold on here. Let me pull up an image here that
I'm so
show off the notch. Yeah. So it's just like
okay, yeah, fine. That's good.
So it's not ideal, but it hasn't really bothered me that much. Most video content doesn't stretch like this, so it's not really that big of a deal for me. There's about
Nick, only the OnePlus One had a sandstone back. All the other ones had just cases with sandstone, if I'm not wrong, because I can't remember. No. What I'm talking about, my 5T had a sandstone back, the white one. So the 5T, but since the 6, they are all glass. Yeah, because my 5T that is broken, that doesn't work. Yeah, it's sandstone.
Yeah, because what was it? I know that the OnePlus 2 had it, because that was the one that they showed. That was the image they used, was the sandstone back version they used in all the articles, and they'd be like, "Didn't you have NFC in this phone?"
I'm still so pissed that my 5T got broke due to the last update, the big one. It just I guess it shorted out the CPU or something like that, because it works, but like after 5 seconds of using it, it gets like super slow. Maybe the chip got damaged and so on, and new updates didn't help. And they actually offered me to replace it, but I never really got to it because I would have to send it back to California for some reason. I don't know why. And I was too lazy to do it back then. So
there's Dave was saying, like, glass is cool, but he's asking if we tried ceramic. I've not tried ceramic, but as far as I know, ceramic has much less tensile strength.
It's not a big difference. I mean, from an in-hand use, you don't really notice a big difference. I had 2, I think, with ceramic. One was very slippery. The other one was fine. But if someone wouldn't have told me, I doubt I would have noticed a difference.
Well, and it's interesting. Like, it's fun, like, to see those different materials being used. But I really like the idea of bringing back the old polycarbonate. I
want polycarbonate. I want something with wood or something similar, and maybe what was the other one? Maybe leather. Yeah, but
that'd be good. Well, then also, Mr. Pulp Fiction's asking, are you gonna personally test out any of the ROG Phone 3 or the Zenfone 7 whenever it comes out?
I mean, since the Asus ROG 2, the 3 was on my list, but I actually decided not to review the ROG 3. The Zenfone I'm not sure yet about, but the ROG 3 is just a slightly souped up 2, and I don't really see an appeal. I mean, it's better, yeah, in every way. But I want smaller phones. I'm a little bit sick of these big phones, and it's a little bit overkill. But the Zenfone, what I've read so far from the leaks, is also supposed to be super huge. I'm definitely going to give that one a try if they implement an at least 90 or 120 hertz display. But the ROG is just a little bit over the top big for me.
Yeah, it just depends on, I guess,
it's too similar. It's too similar. They didn't change anything drastically that would make it worthwhile for me to review it.
Well, and I'm curious I'm more curious about the Zenfone 7, because the Zenfone 6 was kind of a sleeper hit in a lot of ways, and I'd really like to see them improve upon it. And I'm really curious to see what the and like, I haven't heard a whole lot about how well the mechanism worked, because I think that flip mechanism for the camera was pretty brilliant.
It was fine, but the issue was after the last update, that when I got it the second time, it had an issue, and I don't know if they fixed it by now. But if it was a while in standby, like after 3 hours, the mechanism that kind of holds it up closed kind of got powered off, and then the whole the flip mechanism was like loose.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and when I had it the first time, that wasn't an issue. It was always sticking at the bottom. But when I had it and you pick it up from the table, it was always like hanging down there. So people said it was an issue, but I guess they fixed it by now. I don't think it could have stayed like this for a long time.
That's what the one worry I have about the dual screen is. I do worry a little bit about this hinge getting more loose over time, because so if you look at it, there's a little bit of give at the bottom, but then there's no give at the top, really. And then when it folds, you can see right there, like it kind of goes out a little bit, and so like between here, this is the only part where it kind of flops. Other than that, though, it'll stick. So I'm just the only type of thing I'm worried about with the hinge on this. But I mean, they're going to get better with that, and plus also with manufacturers adding more, having more phones with hinges incorporated. I think that's going to help a little bit. Yeah, like what was it, the slider mechanism on the
but Nick, how would that's supposed to be working? You said that they should have made a flip mechanism not motorized, but instead attach it to a slider on the back. But it flipped because the one camera was used on both sides. If you just make it mechanically, I'm not sure.
Oh, so it's like a slider and like a static flip.
Yeah, because then you would have to slide it and flip. I'm not sure if that's really better. I'm not sure.
Because Oppo did that, I think, with some of theirs. And
I know that they had one where the whole centerpiece was kind of getting on. So I'm not really sure how to make the best. But I really like the approach that the main camera was also it was the front-facing camera. That was absolutely cool.
Yeah, that was great, and it's great for anyone who wants to do any sort of vlogging. Like that maybe there.
Maybe what they should have done is make it mechanically, and then you have like a button at the back or something that you push that it just kind of unhinges, and then you can do it mechanically. It wouldn't have been maybe as kind of convenient or as premium, but maybe it would have been a little bit easier because keeping it closed actually drained the battery, because it was actively holding it. So they should have just maybe used magnets or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, because it's like because I know Oppo way back when they first started doing when Oppo was all about being the selfie camera manufacturer. Like they had one that would like flip, but you had to do it manually with your hand. Like it would go up, but then you'd have to flip it yourself to get it to be selfie or use it as regular. And that was pretty okay. It's just like
I mean, it is true what also Juan always says, that don't use the front cam because it's so much weaker, so much inferior to the main cam. Just learn to use the main cam. But if it's so easy with the flip mechanism to use the main cam, the results are so. I mean, the selfies that I did with the Zenfone and the selfie videos, nothing still up to this date comes even close to that.
Oh yeah, agreed. Well, and especially the fact that whenever they did the flip, like whatever, if you're using the main camera, one of them is ultra wide. Like that right there is huge.
Okay, the widescreen back then was still pretty bad, but by now they would use something better. So I'm actually pretty pumped. I'm pretty pumped for this phone. And what was so great that it could use an external microphone due to the jack, which now I guess will be away as well, but there will be a dongle. But for some reason, OnePlus still doesn't even support an external microphone anymore. And so many people said it's just a thing in software that they should flip the switch, but they never did. So pretty pissed about that.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things where it's like the one phone that has had my favorite selfie camera like selfie cameras. It's more for me. It's more just getting the field of view, making it wider. Like there's no reason not to have a super wide field of view. You can use some software to correct on the barrel distortion, and then if it turns out you don't want it to be super wide field of view, use software just like the V20 did to crop in. Like there's like my favorite phone's selfie camera is the XD1 Compact, because the field of view on this thing, like it's crazy how big that punch hole is for it. It's because the field of view is just so stinking wide on this thing. And it's, of course, this doesn't.
Yeah, but those wide angles, I noticed that on the North, the wide angle in terms of quality wasn't really good. I mean, the moment you are in low light, the quality dropped off so heavily. I mean, in good lighting, yeah, fine, but in mediocre lighting, that thing was pretty much unusable.
Yeah, it's Yeah, I mean, the OnePlus Nord's an interesting device. I'm curious to see how well it's going to do for them. I wish they'd released it in the US, but I see what they're doing.
But it doesn't have some bands that you need in the US. Maybe that would have been more expensive. But so far, they got a lot of bad press recently for the software because it has quite some software issues still. Than the display tinting issue. Have you seen the one video where the guy has a gray background and switches just the brightness, and it's going from magenta to what is it, pink to green?
Yeah, it's bad great. Here. Let me.
I actually wanted to test. I wanted to test this on my own, but I didn't for some reason.
I'm trying to find here. I'm trying to pull it up here so we can see. If I Google, I'm finding. Oh yeah, okay. Where's the actual footage of it though? Here, let me pull it up so we can see. Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh god,
this is crazy. When I showed this to my brother, he said, "Well, it's impossible. This was brutal. This was brutal."
Yeah, and Adichie was saying, and by the way, hey Adichie, welcome. They also posted it on the Discord as well. But yeah, like I mean, that's brutal seeing that, and I mean that's a software thing that they can fix. It's just
is it? Ah, okay, I didn't know.
Well, okay, I didn't say that with actual knowledge. I assumed that's the case. Yeah. So I mean, it seems like that would be a software thing.
Yeah, the problem for me is I always use one brightness, which is like between 40 and 60, and usually it's 60 with the Nord, and then I don't change it. The only thing, because now the OnePlus Nord also has screen dimming. When you go into an app, it dims first by 10% and then another 10% like after a few seconds. But I don't touch it on my own, so that's why I would never notice this.
Yeah, it's oh man, it's brutal.
Yeah, but I will say also what's also a little bit misleading on this video, he uses gray on AMOLEDs always looks a little bit off. I would have liked to have seen the same test, but with a just normal like Instagram feed or whatever, because I don't think this would have been nearly as visible on normal content, because gray for an AMOLED is always an odd thing.
Agreed. Well, and gray is like what they use to see if there's any sort of image retention or screen burn, you know. Yeah. And
have you actually noticed on your OnePlus 7 Pro some ghosting?
Not really.
Because what I've noticed a lot when I see the clock and now I unlock it in my browser where it has a gray, I can still see the clock for a couple of seconds.
I haven't noticed any on this one though. It's interesting. Like I basically tried to have like black backgrounds for the most part, not like fully black.
Yeah, usually you don't notice, but if it's gray, it's pretty visible.
I guess I need to look at that before I sell it. But yeah, it's like I haven't had any issues with the display that I've noticed.
Yeah,
on this.
It's not a burn-in; it's just ghosting. It goes away after a few seconds, so it's fine.
Oh yeah. I guess maybe I've noticed that, but I've kind of noticed that in most OLED displays. Like I noticed that a little bit on well, actually, not even on necessarily on OLEDs. Like I've seen that on LCD panels, like that, like on the old the V4, the LG G4 and V10. Ghosting was a horrible issue on those phones, and those were LCDs. But like, especially on the V10, it was awful, especially because the V10 had a crazy amount of light bleed around the display as well. So,
Mr. Pulp Fiction is asking, why do you think that some manufacturers use screen dimming? First of all, I hate that some do it. I mean, so far as I know, it's still Huawei still doing it, but there is an option to kind of turn it off, even if there's some ADB work to be done. But now I think with the OnePlus 8, it already started. They did it as well, and I'm super pissed because I don't know of a way to actually turn it off completely, and I hate it. If I set a manual brightness and some phone interferes with that, so I'm super pissed about it. Why they do it? I guess it's a battery life thing, because for example, for some weird reason, the OnePlus Nord that has even a bigger battery than the 7 Pro, but a smaller resolution, gets worse battery, or I mean, pretty much the same battery life as my OnePlus 7 Pro. So I don't know if what is the cause, but it should have noticeably better battery life in my opinion. So maybe they kind of got it like this.
Well, and so here's the other question then. What do you think about about the OnePlus Nord versus the Pixel 4a that we're assumingly going to see, and if that price point for the Pixel 4a is at $350 versus $399, how do you, like, in Europe, what do you think that do you think there's going to be real competition between these two phones, or do you think there's still going to be separate niches for separate consumers?
I think they will be separate, because Pixels, I mean, it looks like they sell well, but they sell well for a Pixel phone. And I think that OnePlus will sell more because they are kind of more mainstream, actually, in that niche form factor compared to Samsung and so on. And the Pixel pretty much only appeals to people who want a pretty cheap but good camera. But there will be quite some drawbacks going for the Nord. And so many people told me that why should I get a Nord if I can get on Realme X2 Pro, if I can get on Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite, or maybe the 7T. So I think people will be super happy with the Pixel, but for me, I hate Pixel hardware. It's the most stupid design of them all. I don't like the software. The camera that is so great, that is a big part of that phone, doesn't really interest me. So it's absolutely not the phone for me. Absolutely not.
Well, and it's interesting.
And the battery's tiny. And the battery's tiny.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting to me that you say that you don't like their interface that they have, because OnePlus isn't super different. It's just I agree though that OnePlus's software is generally a lot better.
Yeah, but that little bit is more than enough, because I have some flexibility on the buttons and some things, and the Pixel UI is so limited. There's everything, because everything that OnePlus adds, I almost use every single feature because they are super handy. They make my life easier. But on the Pixel, those are all missing.
Right. Well, and that's one thing too. Even going from OnePlus back to LG, I kind of do like some of the extra bits and bobs that LG puts into their OS. And LG's OS has gotten significantly better since gosh, like I guess it was before the GAX.
Yeah. And I totally agree with Sam. The customer bases are, in my opinion, completely different. I don't think they are kind of taking away sales from each other. Not at all.
That's cool. Well, it's interesting though too. With like the Nord, reminds me a lot of the OnePlus X back in the day, where they came out with one that was a little lower cost, but then like didn't have all the bands here in the US. So a bunch of people lusted over it, but they couldn't use it.
And I just wish they would have also made it a smaller phone like the X was, which this one isn't really.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. That like it's not small. I'm not a huge fan of that Tylenol shaped camera cutout. Like I'd rather just have one punch cutout if you're going to do it, and just make it ultra wide and then crop. But whatever, I guess at this point, I've not been a fan of the hole punch cameras anyway.
Actually, it doesn't bother me as long as it's on the left side or in the center. I don't bother about the punch. I only didn't like it at all on the right side for some reason.
Was it the S10e that had it on the right side?
I didn't like that.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I kind of like it being in the center just so that it's symmetrical.
I mean, I have to say what surprised me on the OnePlus 8, where it's on the left side. I didn't really register it. I didn't even notice it. I wasn't even aware it's there in most cases.
Well, and it looks like people in the chat definitely like the hole punch better than the notch in there. So it's interesting. Like I'm still partial to the pop-up camera just for the added security feature, which I will. That's the one fun thing that I will miss, is just I'll be able to tell when eBay is trying to get a photo of my face for some reason, because it'll just pop up and pop down. Like it's about the same speed that it does for whenever it would do face unlock. But first world problems, right? One funny thing, actually, my fiance and I have been watching Parks and Rec, and we've got to the point in the show where they started getting Microsoft like tie-ins with the show, and so everyone's using Windows phones. So I'm seeing like Lumia 1020s, 1520s, all over the place. And it's so funny because they make jokes like, "Oh, I downloaded an app and it does this." And I'm like, "No, you didn't. You couldn't even get almost any apps on there." So it's like the whole it's so funny seeing that because like you see all their laptops and they're all like showing the desktop and it's all like Windows 8, and it's so fun seeing how dated it makes the show. Now that we're in the final season and they've all switched to kind of the Expanse style, futuristic transparent phones with holograms and whatnot on them. But it's so funny seeing like those Microsoft Lumias like that the only place they're still alive is in the hearts of Parks and Rec now.
It's kind of funny. Sam says, "Dude, Windows phones are in tons of movies and shows." Yeah, but usually shows that no one watches.
Well, Parks and Rec is probably the best, like the most wide release show that I've seen them in with it. Never seen. Oh, and newer shows like House of Cards. Oh, okay. God, at that point they were starting to really get long in the tooth, and with House of Cards. Man, well, and it just goes to show you can't just do these tie-ins. You do have to have legit support.
You know what? Actually, something that always kind of irks me when I see a phone and they have this completely arbitrary UI that isn't anything real, when they kind of just use, and usually they look so super cheap. I mean, if you design something on your own, make it slick looking, but don't make it like some look like Android looked like 10 years before. It looks so cheesy and so cheap.
Well, and one thing I've noticed too in Parks and Rec, and I don't know if maybe it just had to do with filming and it didn't show up very well when they were filming, but like they'll always do like screen replace whenever they're showing a phone, and they'll be like, "Look at this, Ron," or whatever, and then like it's like they'll use screen replace and they have a special effect where they have what's on the screen instead of actually having like a video on the screen. And I'm wondering if that's like, if that has to do with just like reflections on the screen or something.
Yeah, but it's also super funny when two people are streaming or talking with each other. Like, for example, if it's maybe FaceTime or something similar, they always have super clarity, super great video, which those devices aren't nearly capable of. If they use like a laptop, you have this super 4K display video, and those cameras are usually absolute trash.
Well, and it's my favorite thing to see in shows. It's usually in TV shows, but sometimes you see it in movies too, where it's either they have a photo, like a screenshot of like a call that they take, and then they put up their face, or they'll see it's a screenshot, and then then there's a separate shot where they put it up to their face, and you see that it's just on their home screen.
So what I hated, usually if you make a call on Android, the display always turns off. But whenever I see the phone still glowing right into their face, you know that it's definitely not a real call that they are doing. And I don't know why it's so hard for them. Just turn off the screen and hold it to their face. But because it takes me always out, because I know that an Android phone doesn't have the display on if it's calling.
Right. Well, it's like, God, what was it? There was a period of time that we'd see a ton of Vivo phones in Marvel movies, and I've never seen anyone use a Vivo phone in real life ever. Like, and maybe it's just like we're not in the right markets for it, but I've never seen them available outside of online purchase anywhere in the United States. So it's interesting that they pushed that so hard in Marvel around the time of like, is it like Winter Soldier and all that, I think is around when they started pushing Vivo phones into their because also the other thing too is I think Vivo phones look generic enough, at least at the time, that they're just like, okay, they kind of reminded me of like a mix of Sony and like the Razer phone sort of design, where it's just like a rectangular box, pretty plain, because around that time Samsung really started getting flashy in their design and all of that. So and actors can't find the power button. Yeah, it's
have you actually seen the video, the movie? I don't know what it was called. A guy buys a phone, and I don't know what it actually was, what they used, if it was a Unreal phone or if it just used a different software. But the whole movie was about a new AI, but the AI was kind of pretty much a jerk, and it fucked up the guy, and it intervened in his life so much, and it was kind of the whole joke how dependent he was on his phone, and with this new UI it got even worse and so on. But it was pretty heavy humor, pretty under the pants, but it was funny. It was kind of good.
That sounds fun. I have to put that one on. Like
I can't remember the name. I have to check it.
We're thinking about what our next thing is that we're going to watch, and like Umbrella Academy is kind of up there on my list of things that we're going to watch once we get done with Parks and Rec. I think today we're going to finish watching Parks and Rec, and have to emotionally.
It was Jaxie.
Oh, okay.
I think they wanted to use Lexi, but for some reason they couldn't, so they had to change that. It was kind of funny.
Well, and Sam says, like, you know, he doesn't really watch TV anymore, and it's like, so what we do, like, we pick a show, and then we'll, you know, that's like our show, that when we have time to watch it, that's what we watch, and we'll just watch it all the way through. We did that with Babylon 5, we did that with The Office, and now we're doing that, and we're finishing up with Parks and Rec, and so now we need to find. Now we're going to try and find a.
Jaxie. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Jaxie is written Jexi. Jaxie.
Oh, okay. I have to look at that and see. There's I've heard of several good shows. Like I think you've talked about the Umbrella Academy to me several times.
It was The Boys was really good, but Umbrella Academy was also fine, but there were a lot of things that I didn't like so much about this show. So I'm definitely looking forward to The Boys, but definitely not so much for Umbrella Academy. And the other show was even worse. I'm not quite sure what it was called. It was pretty popular when it came out, but it was way weaker than anyone said, but I can't remember what it was.
By the way, Nick is having to hop out. Thank you for hopping in. It's been a treat having you. And yeah, he's actually going to be doing a stream here, probably like not long after we're done. So on his Twitch, and he's going to be doing some racing, actually too. So make sure to check him out. Yeah, it's interesting seeing like how. Oh man, yeah, it's fun seeing all that. It's kind of an exciting time. Like as far as shows go, I'm torn between trying to watch something new and something that I've watched before but haven't watched in like 8 years. So I don't know. Oh yeah, what series are you watching this week?
I didn't. I mean, recently I started, but those come in weekly parts. I watched 2 animes recently. I started again. One is called God of High School. It's like about fighting tournament and so on. And the other one is called The Misfit of Demon Academy or something like that. Also not that bad, but they both have like 4 episodes. One has 5. But normal shows, I mean, the last one that I watched but I binged it. It was How to Sell Drugs Online Fast. That's a pretty good one. It's a German show, but it's also dubbed, I think, in English. Pretty good, but it's you can watch it pretty quickly because I think it has 8 episodes of 20 minutes. So it's done in like 3 or 4 hours.
There's
actually less than 3.
One show I've thought about that we could watch to move on to would be the Watchmen TV series. I've heard really good things about it.
I didn't even watch the movie. I watched it like 20 minutes or 30. Then I stopped. It wasn't quite my vibe. So I don't think I would like the show.
It's like the movie I haven't watched since since it came out. And I remember I was so thankful that I finished reading the whole comic because I get squeamish around intense gore. And so like since it was almost a shot for shot remake, I generally knew where most of the bad gore was going to be, which was great because I finished reading that like 20 minutes before the movie started.
Yeah. No God. What I wanted to say is, you know what's so weird? Any show that's not on Netflix, like for example Amazon Prime, flies so much under the radar because there was one with Ed Hardy. No, Tom Hardy. And,
Tom Hardy, yeah.
Yeah, and it's called Taboo. That show, no one knows it. I mean, it wasn't bad. The acting was great. He was great. The character was great. And it was pretty gritty, dirty, hard stuff. So they didn't care about the cast just killing off main characters and so on. It was pretty brutal, pretty realistic.
Ooh.
But I don't think anyone knows this show because it was Prime doesn't really promote their shows. I mean, if I see a show, it's usually on Netflix, and I'm pretty sure there are a few good ones on Prime, but no one knows.
Yeah, there's was it Matt was saying like one of there was a documentary series on Ulysses S. Grant that was actually really good. It was one of those ones where it was like a documentary, but they had lots of like drama stuff mixed in with it, like with actors and everything, and it worked. It was really well done. Star Trek Discovery season 3 is going to start in October. I'm interested to watch it, even though I'm not a huge fan of new Star Trek. Like, I'm interested to watch it because that will be the first season where they're not like leaning on old, like the original series. They're going to be doing their own thing, so we're going to actually see what the show's supposed to be. There's and like, movie theaters here are still closed, so it's like there's not a huge amount of movies coming out. I do want to see that Tom Hanks movie, Greyhound.
Mm-hmm.
That looks good, and I like a good World War II Tom Hanks movie anyway, so
what did I want to say? I don't know, forget. I know. Yeah, okay. No, go on.
Oh, what were you gonna say? No, you go ahead first.
What happened to Picard? Did it actually get extended to a second season?
They did. They extended it to a second season before the show, the first season even aired.
Okay,
which I take issue with because the general reaction to it, I think, has been negative, and I don't think that the show really deserves a second season. In my opinion.
By the way, have you watched the movie The Old Guard?
No.
Charlie? I mean,
is that good?
It was nice. It was okay, but it was the typical Netflix action movie, like similar to the one with Ryan Reynolds and the one with Chris Hemsworth. So that kind of typical action style where the story is okay, the action is fine, but there is nothing groundbreaking there. But the actual idea, because it's based on a comic, which I didn't even know, the actual story had so much potential, but it always annoys me if they use this material that has so much potential and they don't even use like 10% of it and all those special things that were the thing about the Old Guard. So that was a little bit sad.
Well, I mean, kind of like
and how blatantly they kind of teased the second movie. It was so over the top obvious.
Well, and like that's one thing that the squandered opportunities is what really drives me. Some of what drives me the most crazy about shows. Like, I mean, stretching as far back as like Star Trek Voyager, which was like a spinoff Star Trek show, and the idea was they were on the other side of the galaxy. It was going to take them 70-something years to get home, and they had like a mixed crew of like, these terrorists as well as like Starfleet, and like there was a lot of potential. Like, you'd think like the ship would be and the crew would be completely different once they got back, but it turned into just kind of the Next Generation light and went on a formula where like the show became known for like they basically anything that happened that would get reset at the end, and so like it just didn't, the characters didn't grow as much like they could have. And it's one of those things where that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves in television is where they squander those opportunities.
Mr. Pulp Fiction is saying, I think the budget on Netflix movies is very limited compared to cinema releases. That's actually not that true, because I saw that there are like $100 million movies as well. So they get enough money, and the action was done well, and they had good they had good actors. So they had the budget for sure. I'm just talking about the story didn't take the full potential. The movie on its own was just as good as any movie for cinema, just as the one with Chris Hemsworth. So the budget isn't the issue at all.
It's interesting. Like, I haven't watched a whole lot of the Netflix like movies.
Because they usually aren't that good. Usually, if then it's maybe like the Spanish ones. Those are pretty good because those heavily rely on a really good story. Like, for example, the one that was, what was it called? The platform was great, and there were like 3 or 4 other Spanish movies. Awesome story and amazing. The acting was pretty good for a Spanish movie and so on. The atmosphere, everything. And I don't care about effects on these kind of movies, and they were well produced, absolutely.
Well, that's good. Well, and it's like I like it when movies go back to do as much practical stuff as they can. Like I kind of liked some of the period.
No,
like, what was that
like
the Chris Pine movie that they had that was like The King or something like that?
I didn't watch that one. I know what you mean. But what I actually want is I want the movie not even to have to rely on effects, because the Spanish movies, those aren't action movies. Those are like deep, heavy, like on story based, and they don't need effects or anything like that. So super great. I mean, but there was one movie, I'm not quite sure which one it was, and they said, yeah, it was Parasite. And they said, if you watch Parasite, it looks like there aren't many effects, but there was so much CGI, but it was just kind of extending things in the background that you didn't even realize things weren't real. I mean, the house wasn't real. The whole flooding, the whole street, the whole small town, nothing of that was real. Everything was done in post, but so well and kind of so subtle in the background that they used effects. But those didn't make the movie. The movie was held up by the story, and that's so much more important.
Oh, yeah. Overall, that's one thing also. It's just like I've not wanted to watch a lot of these new Viking shows either, because it seems like they're just kind of capitalizing on the success of that show Vikings. Like there's a new show on Netflix called Norsemen, and I'm like, what? It's just off-brand Vikings, and it's kind of shameless. It feels a little bit with some of those, exploiting those sorts of things. And so I'm kind of more like, well, should we just...
Have you watched Vikings?
I watched probably the first couple of seasons of Vikings, and I enjoyed it.
I watched like 3 episodes, and it felt a little bit cheap. Didn't really kind of catch me.
Yeah, like it was interesting. Like I watched far enough where somebody had like what's it called? I forgot what it's called. Where it's like the execution, where it's like an eagle, where they basically hack out your ribs and then rip out your lungs. Yeah. Oh my god! Luckily they didn't show it, but the audio was there. They did some great audio work for that to make it sound gross. But yeah, like I mean, it was fine. It didn't like hold me in. Like it didn't. I didn't continue watching it after like the second or third season. But it's just like, is the show about over? Is that why somebody like Netflix felt like they could have a copycat show now and feel safe? I guess. I don't know.
Dev Burns says, are you saying that Hollywood is creatively bankrupt? They are for like at least, I mean, since whenever Marvel got popular and those sequels and everything else. So they are bankrupt for a long time. But actually, it's surprising that this year we are seeing some more, because maybe they don't have the budget or they don't want to release the big movies yet. We are seeing actually some, let's say, cheaper movies that aren't actually even that bad. Can't really think of anything out of my head. But for example, Mr. Pulp Fiction is also saying, are there any good TV shows from Asia, Korea, or China? I think if it's from Asia, it's usually an anime. And for example, my brother said that because he watches so many anime, and he says that the Chinese one actually he thinks would be really good because the drawing is better than on the Japanese ones, but he just can't get over Chinese because Chinese is a very ugly language, where Japanese on those animes is the biggest thing about the show, because they are so intense in terms of voice acting and so on. And Korea is also a pretty ugly language. I mean, that's just from my standpoint, they don't understand. I guess Koreans and Chinese would disagree, but Japanese in shows sounds so much better.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I haven't really watched a whole lot of Asian specific Asian produced shows. Really,
they have good stuff. They had good stuff because they do a lot of martial arts. But if they make normal movies, they also, especially, there are a lot of Korean movies I know that are also similar to the Spanish ones, that have a really good story and don't need effects or anything, and they are pretty kind of, let's say, bland, because they don't need a big budget or anything, but the story is the big thing and the acting is pretty good and so on. So Koreans have that, yeah.
Well, and one really great, I forgot the director's name, but he has a great South Korean director who visually his movie was great. It was Snowpiercer, and like that visually that movie was great. I hated the story. I didn't think the story was very well written, but
the guy
he's a talented filmmaker.
the guy that makes Snowpiercer is the same that made Parasite. And Snowpiercer, and when Parasite came out, everyone said, "Wow, it's so great, similar to Snowpiercer." And then I actually watched Snowpiercer, and I think it was a big bunch of trash. The story was absolutely bullshit, and the ending was completely shit. I mean, that movie. The idea wasn't bad, but they didn't take any advantage of it.
I like the cinematography in scenes like where they had. And there was like the one car where they had the two forces going to fight each other, really brutally. I think that sequence was really well
Cinematography was fine, but the overall
visually and whatnot was good.
The overall movie though was heavily overrated.
Agreed. And it was it was on the nose satire in terms of like, political, like economic inequality and all that, and it was really on the nose.
Yeah, it was too much in your face.
Yeah. There's so it's interesting. There's tons of stuff. It's just there's too much stuff now to look at. And what was actually, it was funny, there was something that I discovered was I like to watch documentaries a lot, like especially historical ones, and there's a series from BBC from like 15 years ago that has a ton of A-list actors in it, and it's like the rise and fall of Rome, and one of them had Nero, and it has what's the actor's name? He was the werewolf guy in Underworld, and he's Michael Sheen, Martin.
I don't know his name. I know who you mean, but I don't know.
Let me see. His name is Michael Sheen. He plays Nero in it, and he's great as Nero. And it's one of those ones where it's half documentary, half like drama, sort of the way they depict it, going through. And his performance is spectacular as Nero. Because Nero was super sensitive and like an artist, but he was also a nutcase. And they handled it really well. And there's several different episodes in this limited documentary series, and like they have some really good ones, like the if anybody here has seen Master
what
Commander
year was this made? What year was this made?
Let me see. BBC Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire was 2006.
2006.
Yeah, so they had 6 episodes, and it was covering.
They don't sort by dates.
Let me see. It was Caesar, Nero, Rebellion, which was I forgot who, Josephus. Then it's Rebellion, then Revolution, which was Tiberius Gracchus. Then Constantine, and then the Fall of Rome, which I haven't seen. I've only seen some, probably the first 3. But they're good. They're entertaining, and they're on YouTube right now. And YouTube is like the best for documentaries. So just in terms of finding random ones.
Have you actually heard about Nebula?
Nebula.
Yeah, it's a streaming platform where and it's supposed to have only documentaries and also these kinds of, and it's pretty cheap. It costs like $2 or $3 a month. So I'm thinking for so long already to kind of get it, because the really good YouTubers that make kind of documentary style videos make this longer style format videos on Nebula, and they are supposed to be quality wise really good. And I should use this trial month to check it out, because I mean it doesn't cost much, and I like high quality documentaries, and if I can get all those there, it might be very appealing.
Well, and it's interesting too, because I have Curiosity Stream. And
yeah, so Curiosity Stream and Nebula is the same. I mean, it's kind of if you get one, you get the other, but I'm not quite sure which one. I think if you get Nebula, you get Curiosity Stream as well, or the other way around.
Yeah, because I just tried to sign into Nebula with my Curiosity Stream sign in, and it was saying that they weren't able to set me up in there. So I'm
okay. So then it must be Nebula, and then you get Curiosity Stream as well. So I guess. Yeah.
Well, and it's like I definitely like to try out Nebula, because I've been watching a lot of YouTube channels like what was it, Legal Eagle, and apparently like they've been shilling hard for Nebula, But
no, I have a couple. I have like 3 or 4 channels that I watch that do content for Nebula and Curiosity Stream. And they always kind of advertise it at some point because they say, if you want more of our content, then go to Nebula or Curiosity. And they usually also give like 30% off codes and so on. Yeah, Wendover is the big one. That guy's great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's like because I've been watching a lot of Legal Eagle, and I'm interested to see what more they have to offer on there. I like their.
I guess Wendover is by far actually the biggest one. I think.
History. I didn't know that History Buffs is also on here. This one's a pretty good one where they like pretty much like they'll go through like History Buffs is probably one of my favorite like channels that covers movies and if they're historically accurate or authentic, which are 2 separate things, and and it's really good. Like A Bridge Too Far, like I watched that one not too long ago, and I love A Bridge Too Far. I want to watch The Death of Stalin, and then The Terror. If you ever get a chance, you should watch the first season of The Terror, and it follows. It's basically so essentially it in the. Was it 1820s, I think, 1830s? There was an expedition, a British expedition with 2 ships, the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror, that with the Franklin expedition, they went to go to find the Northwest Passage in Canada. And they went in, they were basically not very well prepared, and they got iced in and were stuck for like 2 years. And turns out their canned provisions, they were using early canning, and the supplier who they went with, who was the cheapest bidder, their solder ended up inside the food, like lead solder, and so the people got lead poisoning, combined with scurvy and everything else, and just being there where they don't have as much food after they run out. Everyone in the spoilers in terms of just like the actual history, everyone died in this. Basically, they disappeared off the face of the planet. And they found some bodies later on, and they did some tests on them and found that they had high levels of lead poisoning in their bodies. And so this show is based off of a book that's kind of tells it, and it's as far as what we know from what happened, because they found the ship since then too. It's pretty accurate as far as we know for what happened, but also there's this whole thing about like this creature that's following them. It's like a giant polar bear creature that's following them and stalking them too, which is interesting. So it's a good show. I haven't watched the second season because it's like the second season's completely different. It's like about like the Japanese internment camps. But the first season which I saw was really quite good.
Mr. Bob Fiction is asking if these are professional documentaries. I mean, as far as I get it, it's what those bigger or high quality YouTubers do, and they kind of make professional documentaries in a better style than they usually do on YouTube. So it's kind of like advanced. It's maybe not quite professional because it's not like something like BBC does or something like that, but from the YouTubers, from high quality YouTubers, and it looks like a polished documentary. That's what I got so far.
Yeah, there's and if you're wanting something more along the lines that's like BBC, or even a lot of times they're like older documentaries that are still relevant. Curiosity Stream is really good.
Yeah, I guess I maybe mix also both of these up because I'm not quite sure how they differ, because they do something very similar because they are tied together.
Well, and it's interesting, and now I'm kind of like, well, I'd kind of like to be able to like have
because what I think Nebula is like what YouTube Premium was supposed to be, because those YouTubers that usually wanted to make kind of more high quality YouTube Red content that didn't work out because no one cared about it, they used Nebula to push their kind of paid wall, so where they have this a little bit more high quality stuff behind there to get more.
Yeah, because Curiosity Stream by itself is $20 a year.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It's like $3.
Yeah,
or so.
It's so I figured that was pretty good. Plus, also, I think at the time I ended up getting some sort of deal. So because I think initially it was like $12 I paid, which was $1 a month. And I was like, okay, yeah. And then I've watched one documentary on it, which is terrible. I need to actually watch it more.
Yeah, that's why I have to check it at first as well, because it might sound good, but maybe those overly professionally done documentaries aren't even my thing, because I usually like what I get on YouTube if I watch these kind of things, because there are really good ones available.
There's a really good channel that I've watched called Ashante Films that they've done one that's like they're a history related one, but the guy does a bunch of sketches and he has characters in there that he does. There's he just did a video that he received his YouTube play button, and so his whole video about it, because one of his characters is like a Nazi whatchamacallit, archaeologist character. And so what he did was he was that character, and when opening the box for the play button was like opening the Ark of the Covenant from Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so he did this whole thing, it was like basically redoing that whole scene from the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. He made this clay face that he did the same effect that they did in the movie, where they had this clay face, and then he just had heat guns going on it, and he'd record it and it would melt slowly, and then he sped it up to basically recreate the whole effect from the movie. But he did the exact same method, and it was great, But yeah, he's done a lot of Civil War stuff. That's because here in the United States, unfortunately, we do have a lot of people, and a lot of people where I grew up who follow it's what's called the lost cause myth of this American Civil War, which is basically, essentially, breaking it down to its most basic form, is a myth that's been perpetuated since the Civil War by people in the former Confederacy in the South, as to try and say that the Civil War was not about slavery, even though it was. And it's basically to try and justify why so many people died for such a horrible cause. And it's still an issue today. Hence why we have all these issues with monuments and whatnot. But he does some great videos about he takes comments from his channel, and the super toxic ones that are pro lost cause myth stuff, and he does these debunking videos. But he has himself, which is as a union guy, and then he has a character that's Johnny Reb, who's basically the voice for all of these terrible YouTube comments, and he argues with himself about it, and it's pretty entertaining, the way he does it, and it's pretty fun, non-traditional nonfiction when it comes to YouTube. Checkmate Lincolnites, yeah, that's the name of the thank you. Checkmate Lincolnites is the name of that series, and it's fun and silly and entertaining.
Mr. Pulp Fiction is asking if YouTube isn't paying enough. What I think it's partially that, but I also think that it's just the visibility. They don't push the content, and no one knows about it stuff. And I guess that's why, because you can have the best content, and there was, I guess, some good stuff on YouTube Red, but no one knew about it. So that's just another one, just another half-assed thing that Google did. I'm not quite sure. I was thinking about it this week. They started doing something, and they never really did it right, and that's why it completely got shut down. So it's typical YouTube.
Yeah, well, and YouTube Red, oh my God, their whole YouTube Red or Premium or whatever, the only thing that was good that came out of that is just the fact that I don't have commercials on YouTube. I don't care anything about the content, because the content has just been terrible.
Just yesterday, I watched a video from Epos Vox where he was complaining about how YouTube has an advertising problem or the YouTube money problem and so on. And he said that they introduced features where you could have a series of videos and set them into a show. You could give it a name. If you were talking about maybe just about capture cards, you could give this a show name and then a season, and whenever you add something, you could give it new seasons and episodes and all. But they said that, and he said that they never told people about that feature, and some used it and some just never could, and they never really told people what it's about, because he found it would be super helpful, because he has so many different kind of series or shows that he could use that, but it's not allowed anymore. And when they took it away and so on, and that's once again YouTube and Google. So weird. They introduce sometimes really clever stuff, but don't tell anyone about it.
Oh yeah. Well, and by the way, Matt Tyler hopped in. Hey, buddy. No worries about being late. We still got a ton of some more topics to talk about too. But yeah, I agree. Like it's crazy, like how YouTube just and I wouldn't even necessarily say like. I guess promoting their premium content was a problem, yes, but also just like the choice of their premium content was it was very low effort, low quality, like the Logan Paul stuff, all the stupid
if that's the best thing that you have, then you're screwed.
Yeah, like it was just terrible. Like there was something with like iJustine, some sort of
I mean, what they should have maybe used is someone super huge like PewDiePie making something a little bit more professional, like as a show. That one could have picked a lot of steam to get those smaller ones going in. But Logan Paul, yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like Matt Tyler picked up a Realme X2 Pro, actually.
Cool phone, cool phone. I like that.
I haven't actually seen that one.
I like that one a lot. It was similar to a 7T. So pretty much the real me opponent.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's here. Let me pull this up. Actually, yeah, that's not bad. Like, wow, that's a big phone too.
It was like a 7T, pretty much.
That's not bad. Yeah, like that's gonna be fun. Like that's 64 megapixel sensor. Is that the same sensor that's in the V60? I wonder, because the V60s is a 64 megapixel sensor too. So
I don't know. Cool. I don't think so, because the camera wasn't that spectacular. It was solid, so I don't kind of think so. What's actually with the V60 camera? I mean, I guess you watched Juan's stuff. I didn't, but on which level is the camera from the V60? Is it with the best ones out there, or are there still some things where they are lacking?
I think I have I'm biased. I tend to take photos with the manual modes and with LG cameras, so it does tend to change a little bit. Like the auto mode is a little bit less, I think, but I mean, for me, it's been really nice. Like I went and took a bunch of photos and video yesterday when I was out and about, and like there was some spectacular stuff I got. So hold on here, let me see. Okay, I'm pulling this up so we can see some of these photos. Like I took, there we go. Like took something like that in manual mode, and like the app is really good. And of course, most of these I edited in RAW, so like you can see.
You were in a national park or something like that, right?
What was that?
You were in a national park or something similar.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It was like it was one of our state parks here, and so it was, and like it's pretty good. Like there's lots of detail with these, which I really enjoyed. It took me back a little bit of.
Why do you have so many similar shots?
Mainly because I'll take like several shots to make sure, like if I'm in focus, and then I'll pick the best one and then edit it. So this is just all the ones that uploaded. I'm trying to think. One interesting thing I've noticed is if I zoom in, so like this was an automatic shot, and I did the 2x zoom, which is crop zoom. But then if I do the same thing, so if I go into the app and I go 2x, and I'm in manual mode, and I go to 2x zoom for the crop, it'll do it in the viewfinder. But then when it exports it as a RAW file, it's the full size. I have to crop back in.
Oh, that's But
this is also RAW, so it's like. So
the V60 doesn't have a zoom camera?
It does not. No, it does not have a telephoto zoom. Which honestly, I'm okay with it.
I mean, if it would have been a 3x zoom, I mean that one's helpful. But
that's true. Yeah.
I mean, 2x you can forget that. If you have that one, you can just leave it out of the phone anyway. So, but the 3x is quite handy.
Oh yeah. I will say, it has been a bit handy on the OnePlus. I just don't like OnePlus's RAW images. I don't think they're true.
I never used RAW. I don't really know.
There's this one I actually. I don't think this is the stabilized version.
Why is it so choppy?
There we go. So like that was me walking. I ended up going through, and it's for some reason it's not showing up in there. Oh no, here it is. I think this is the stabilized version. I used Google Photos to stabilize me walking, and it turned out pretty good. Like I've enjoyed the manual mode on the cameras tremendously. it behaved like a champ. There's trying to see. There was another couple of good shots that we had. I liked the quality of some of the super close up and the detail that you see. So overall, I'd say I've been pretty happy with it. This was the ultra slow. This is their slow-mo mode, so it was like a lower quality. Oh, it's not. Oh, yeah, there we go. So it's a little lower quality in terms of resolution, and of course, it's going to be darker. And so what I did was I recorded in 4K and slowed it down. Recorded in 60 frames per second 4K, and then slowed it down manually in editing. Is this one? One of these is 60 frames. Well, 60. And is this one it?
Does the V60 have 60 frames stabilized?
This one is actually what I had. The footage of me walking around was the original one of that, and also this is 60 frames per second stabilized.
Okay.
Well, stabilized, but yeah. So it turned out pretty good. Like, and this one didn't have very good lighting because I was like in a cave. So, because I was basically standing I was standing like over here, and then looking up from there is this view. So this was the only source of light up there. So it turned out pretty good. Like, I enjoyed it. I think it's a good camera, and I think the app is really
good. Is it just good, or is it?
Level? Oh, I'd say so. I'd definitely say so. It in terms of also just the way I use a camera, I think that especially like what I look for, which I enjoy using a manual mode, and it's been a significantly better experience than on OnePlus. Okay. Though, like when it comes to auto mode, I'd say it's more on parity with OnePlus, if that makes any sort of sense. It's not going to be like pixel level, but I'd still say it's flagship level. So it's just interesting seeing that. There's let's see.
I think we've kind of plateaued on cameras. I mean, for the last 2 years or so, when I reviewed, and then I stopped reviewing phones, and then I got some. I don't really see you mostly these days, like for the last 2 years, you see it in the extra cams, like in the wide angle or the zoom cam. But the main camera for the last like 2 years is pretty much the same.
Well, I was listening to a podcast. It was it was Adam Dowd's podcast, and he had someone who was an expert on mobile photography and image processing on, and basically we just now in the last couple of years overtaken what like the Lumia 1020 could do.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because now we have a bunch of other different like telephoto and ultra wide and some of this other stuff that's just now eclipsing them, and it's like 5 years difference.
Yeah, that's what I've been telling people so long time, that they are putting way too much effort into those cameras, and they always want the newest one and the best ones. But the main cam, and that's the one that most people use for the biggest part, doesn't really advance that much anymore.
Yeah, well, and he talked also a lot about like the squandered opportunities of the Nokia 9, and how like if they had the image processing and image acumen that Google has, they could have done done some fantastic hybrid zooms with all the extra cameras they had with what the Pixel has done to achieve their hybrid zoom.
It felt like that on the Nokia 9, like it was held back by software and optimization and so on. I think on Windows Phone they just knew what they were doing, but they don't really know it on Android yet.
So, what do you think about the new Nokia flagship then?
I have no idea. I have no ideas about new Nokia phones. I haven't followed them since the Nokia 9 that I reviewed. Since then, they got so uninteresting for me that I have no idea what's kind of the newest ones out there. I have no idea.
I'm trying to pull up. I forgot which one it is. It's the Nokia. It's the 8.3 5G flagship. Here, let me pull it up here.
So 8 is their best one. Okay.
I guess it is now, yeah. And so it looks.
What chip does it use?
That's a
do
good
they have
question.
something with an 8? Do they have something with an 865? I don't think so, right?
Oh, it's going to be the 765.
Oh, 7. Yeah, but it's a good chip. But it's odd that they don't even have a real flagship. Okay.
Well, and honestly, I don't think that they have the acumen to really compete at this point at that price point, because they're going to basically have to sell $1,000 phones, and what's going to happen is reviewers are just going to go, oh well, it's interesting, but it's not as polished as other $1,000 phones.
Once again, 6.81 inches, man, those displays are getting ridiculous. I mean, I'm getting annoyed. I want something at 6.2 inches for once again. I mean, I like the Nord was 6.4 and was easier to use, but I'm getting a little bit because whenever I pull out my phone and I see this brick in when I'm around people, it looks so off. When I use it on my own, I don't care, but when it feels way too big.
That's why whenever I went with the V60 and the dual screen case, I was like, okay, it's giant already. Might as well go all in on it, you know? And so I've gotten to a point where, okay, so if I want to use my phone, I might as well just just like use it with purpose, you know, and not just idly be in it, because it's just the barrier for entry. It's kind of like using just a regular folio case, you know.
You remind me a little bit at the guy that was using his laptop as a phone,
right? Yeah,
this big 13-inch or 15-inch to use as an MP3 player.
It does feel ridiculous holding the phone and the dual screen like this to take calls. It is a giant chunk. That is like I could kill someone with this.
How heavy is the whole package?
Oh, I haven't actually weighed it, but it's heavy. Like it's heavier than.
I'm sure it's heavy.
it feels at least twice as heavy as the OnePlus, in my opinion.
It should be. Yeah.
And but that's okay. I don't mind it. I just have to make sure if I go to the gym, my drawstring on my shorts is really tight, so it doesn't pull my shorts down while I'm working out. That's the one time where I usually don't use the second screen, because also I don't want to, because this screen is this case is more fragile than other cases, so I don't want to break it. So when I go to the gym, I will take off the second screen just in case, just for one weight's sake, but also just to protect the case itself too. So one thing also that turns out we ended up talking about earlier, and we both didn't even realize we were using two of the similar products, but we both have like the Amazfit BIP. I have the S and you have the original BIP, and I've had mine for less than a week. How long have you had yours?
I've had it since it was released, but I didn't really use it. I used it there when I reviewed like a month. Then I used it once for the Xiaomi Mi Band 4 like a week or so, and now I'm using it for like 2 weeks again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice little wearable. Like I've been trying to find it as like a maybe it'll focus at some point, but
it's visible. It's visible. It's okay.
Yeah, it's like I've been trying to find basically a supplement or a replacement for my Pebble, because the Pebble is starting to get a little long in the tooth with the battery, and I just want to try something that has official support, and it's been pretty good. It does feel significantly cheaper in terms of like it is super light, like it is it's so much lighter compared to the Pebble Time that I have. Okay. But like it's nice though, like it's more comfortable to wear in terms of like sleeping. But the thing that's crazy to me is like there's a ton of different apps you can use to sync it versus just using the Amazfit app. Like you can use the Mi Fit app, use a third-party one to pair it, which is crazy to me. Like I never even thought about that. So like
me neither, no. Mm-hmm.
And like the fact that there's compatibility. Well, the fact that there's compatibility with that it has the ability to do that is weird to me. Like it's almost like being able to do that with another app that's not Wear OS, you know.
I guess they are pretty open about it. So I guess it's pretty open, and they are just maybe publicly releasing their APIs, and anyone can just tie them into their app. Looks like it, and it's actually odd that you can get so much more functionality out of it. So the main OS seems to support it. Cool.
Yeah, which is really interesting.
I mean, have you actually noticed that you can't see emojis on this one? You only get like this question mark. So if you download Notify, you have the option there to install a custom firmware, and you then see the emojis. I've not tried that. Yeah, I've not tried that yet myself, but it looks like it's working.
That actually is something that I'm probably going to end up trying today, because
you need that app.
Yeah, well, and that's going to affect my thoughts on it too, because I've been using the regular Amazfit app, and oh my god, like setting up this thing was a chore. By the way, Sam's having to head out. Thanks for hopping by. This is great. But yeah, like oh my god. So I got it launched and I got it paired, and then it was trying to do like the firmware updates. And oh my god, it was a nightmare. Like it would try and do it, say it failed repeatedly. So I had to go and wipe the watch, and I had to go and wipe the app and bring it back, and it just wouldn't do it. And then out of the blue, it actually did it, which is fine. And see you around, Matt. Have a good one. But yeah, like it's nuts. And it was a huge pain in the ass. Like you had to have them like super close together too. I couldn't just like have my phone in my pocket and my watch on my wrist and do it. So it's clunky, but if the notified fitness for Amazfit does it better, then that's pretty interesting. Because like one thing I've had to do with like getting custom watch faces is I have to go in and like essentially replace some of the stock watch faces.
With the Xiaomi Mi Fit app already, it works super easy.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe the Amazfit app isn't good. I didn't even know there is an extra Amazfit app.
Right, and I was like, I just assumed that it was the Amazfit app that you need to use, but apparently not. So.
I mean, I didn't even know about it.
That's crazy. There's
and with the Notify app, you can actually even use the data that you get from Google Fit. So it even ties into that.
Yeah, and so what I did with the Amazfit app was it was another thing where I ended up going in and having the data sync with Google Fit, so that at least I have it all in one place. Because then I
don't have anything in Google Fit, so I don't know. Never used Google Fit.
I mainly use Google Fit as a hub for all of my data, for all of my fitness data, because Amazfit won't tie in with the watch, but it'll tie in with Google Fit. So if I have all of my data going from an Amazfit app into Google Fit, then all that data is available to like the MyFitnessPal app.
Mm-hmm.
And so so Google Fit is basically, I don't actively use the app. I use it as the hub for all of my fitness data.
Okay.
That way, any other peripheral app that doesn't have support for whatever niche software I have for my watch can still access that data. And I did that with the Pebble as well, though the Pebble was not, that's the one big thing too, is the Pebble was not great for fitness. There's no heart rate monitor. It's just a pedometer. And it's mainly like, I would say the Pebble is better at notifications than the Amazfit Bip is, but the Bip is better for fitness. Just in general, well, of course, with what you're saying, that solves the emoji stuff, solves some of it. Also, the fact that you can do some canned responses. You can actually respond to some stuff, some notifications. You can't with this.
See what's odd with my Amazfit recently, but I think it was just the last week. The first week it worked fine, so I guess I changed the setting. But when I'm at home, I get a notification like a split second before on the phone. But when I'm out there with mobile data, I get the message or the notification on the phone, and like sometimes not at all on the Bip, only when I activate it again, or like 10 seconds later. So I think I used one option once, and I'm not quite sure which one it was, but I have to find it again, because I think I've messed something up, because it worked before. But it's odd that it works on Wi-Fi but not on mobile data, because there I don't have the issue.
That is really strange. It reminds me a bit of whenever I get an email in from work. So we use Outlook, Microsoft Outlook for work.
Yeah, and it might be also that they say if you use Notify, you don't need the Amazfit app anymore. Maybe I should deactivate it, but I have still both running. And they say that if you have both running and doing the same stuff, they could interfere. So I guess that's part of it. So maybe I should just deactivate the Amazfit app or the Mi Fit as long as I don't need it.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll probably end up doing today is going through and trying to use the notifying fitness for Amazfit. Like I will say the Amazfit app, like presentation is really good. Like I like actually
super nice. The one on the Notify is with a black theme looks really slick, really nice. And it shows you a lot of information. You can adjust the home screen, customize it. They're super flexible. Super.
Oh yeah. And like some of the fitness stuff has been good, like in there. Like I'll pull it up, and I like the presentation in here. And this is unfortunately this is the only screen that's going to be dark mode. Everything else is like blinding. Yeah, and it's pretty good. The yeah, like actually, let me see my sleep. Yeah, I basically had no deep sleep last night. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. On the Notify app, that looks way more accurate. So I'm not quite sure what they are kind of using the data in a different way. But like I told you before, on the Xiaomi Mi app, I never had more than an hour, where I now, with the same amount of sleep, have like 2.5, if not 3 hours of deep sleep. So it kind of uses the data way more, smart.
Right. And so I'm excited to see how much of an improvement I'm going to get with it, because that it just blows my mind. And it's like one of those things I would kind of love to also see. Rebel, which is like basically the Pebble OS now. I would love to see that ported to the Amazfit BIP. That would be crazy to see. But
yeah, I'm not sure how open this whole OS on this phone is, because also Pulp Fiction was asking if this is using Android Wear. No, this is using a proprietary OS, their own BIP or Xiaomi OS. I don't know what they're actually calling it, but
it's so far pretty good. Like the fact that you can,
it's not super complex. You can't download like apps like on an Android app store, and it works through the Notify app. And there are some adjustments and extras that you have, but it's not like super crazy. It does pretty basic stuff, but that one is pretty streamlined.
Well, and that's one of those things with even when I wore my Samsung watch and had Wear OS watches, I just didn't care about like a bunch of apps for it. Like I'll use it on my phone if I want apps, but like I don't care about putting any music on my watch or I just want to have notifications and tracking and fitness tracking and show me the time. Like that's it. And
that's where the transfer reflective display comes in, because there is no need for the kind of motion that it turns on. I mean, you can do this as well if you need the backlight, which is not that great, because I turned mine off. In the dark, you can't see it, and when you press the button, you have some backlight, but then the display looks worse. But if you are in super bright conditions, the brighter it gets, the display looks better. And that's the exact opposite on the Mi Bands or anything that uses AMOLED, because on the Xiaomi Mi Bands, for example, if I'm indoors, I need to lower the brightness. If I go outside, I need to thrust it up all the way to just be able to see it. And there is no auto sensor or an easy way to change the brightness. So this is way smarter.
This is why I think that Wear OS, Google really needs to, if they came out with a Pixel Watch, I think they need to come out with one with an e-ink display or transrespective display.
Transreflective, I guess, is the one to go for. Yeah.
Yeah. But could you imagine? Because like one of the big problems they have with Wear OS is battery life.
Yeah. And because I was recently offered to review a smartwatch, and they said like, no, I wasn't offered, but I saw there is a new watch coming out. I'm not quite sure which one it is.
Is it the square one, the Oppo watch?
Maybe that one. And they say like 24 or 30 hours for the bigger battery, for the bigger model. I mean, 30 hours, that's maybe like at best 1 day of battery life. I'm not going to charge my watch every day. That's the great thing about this one. This holds like at least 3, if not 4 weeks if it's fully charged. That's great.
Yeah. It's like, I really love the fact that you basically get like 30 days out of this.
Yeah, because for example, the Xiaomi Mi Band that I had, this 2, I think, held like 2.5 weeks. Then the 4 that I had held like maybe 2 weeks, and this one just holds for the newest one, the 5, holds for a week. So they got worse and worse. Where this one still is top.
Oh yeah, it's
and it has GPS integrated, which is a big thing if you want to track properly. Because I told Andrew about it. When I tracked my route that I walk, the Mi Band was off by 1 kilometer after only 6 kilometers. It was already off by 1.
Yeah, and that's one thing too that I'm curious about, and I guess I need to bite the bullet and wear my Samsung watch to compare in terms of
that's what I wanted to do with the Xiaomi as well, just to check it if it was kind of off one day or if it's a regular thing. Yeah,
yeah, and it's like I what was it yesterday? I wore my Pebble on one wrist and then my Bip on the other.
How does the charger actually look like on the Bip S? Is it the same as on the normal one?
Okay, hold on. Let me unplug this here so I can.
Because I didn't really like that one so much, but since you don't need it often, it's fine. If I would find mine.
If I can get this thing unplugged here, hold on. I plugged it in, and it's not wanting to unplug. Oh, there we go. From my USB port.
Yeah,
okay.
that's the thing, Mr. Pulp Fiction. Yeah, I'm gonna get to that.
So yeah, so
here's it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're gonna freaking break the thing whenever you put your watch in it. Like So I'm like, okay, I want to put it in. Okay, how about
the new charging on the Mi Band is pretty fine, where we have the small one that just attaches.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it's like I love the Pebble magnetic charging.
Let me get to that. There are people jogging in the streets listening to music from their smartwatch via True Wireless in Bluetooth headphones. Who is jogging with a 200 grams phone? That's the issue that I have, because when I go outside, I have to drive to the park where I want to walk. And so I have to carry my keys, and I have to carry my phone for music. And therefore I use, what's it called? The kind of fanny bag. So I have to, but when I run, this is shaking no matter how tight you put it on, and it's just annoying. So I totally get that. But I even if I wouldn't have a phone with me, I would still need the keys, and those would be dangling somewhere. And the clothes that I usually wear for walking don't really have pants, and I definitely don't want it. I mean, though they have pants, I mean pockets, and I don't want to have it in the pockets anyways.
Yeah, there's oh man, like one thing I'm actually I really have enjoyed using is like I like to get a Camelback, like a little backpack, and it has like little pouches. So you can put some stuff in.
I'm looking for something like that. Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, here, let me pull it up.
What kind of what have you? Yeah, exactly.
So I had one from like 15 years ago, but it's like I need to replace it. So,
mine is also like at least 20 years old, if not older. Yeah, my family.
So here, let me pull up, because I've got my wish list here, and I'm actually probably going to order it here today because they're starting to run out of stock. Hold on here. Let me pull it up here. I have to pull it up because I sent it to my fiance to be like, hey, hint, hint, my birthday's coming up, which is terrible. Here, let's see. Okay, here, let me share this. Okay, this is the one I'm looking at, and there's actually a couple.
I was looking for something a little bit smaller.
Oh, well, there is another one that is smaller here.
I want something super small and compact, because I don't really wear much inside. I need maybe my wallet, maybe the phone, maybe.
There we go. Here's one. It's a 50 ounce one. So it is significantly smaller.
Yeah, that looks fine.
And like $50, that's not a bad deal for that one.
Especially since I'm looking into buying an e-bike myself just now.
So nice.
Yeah.
I
was actually testing some yesterday, but the issue is people are buying them like crazy, and I'm talking about like 3,000 euro bikes. And wherever I went into a store, I asked this one, and so we don't have any, or they were pretty much sold out. And one guy, for example, said we just had 3, but they were sold like an hour ago. And so it pretty much just when the store opened. So it will be the best thing was actually I was at the store and I said, this bike, I'm looking forward. I would like to try it in my size and so on. And he said, yeah, we don't have any, but we should get them soon. And I wasn't actually paying attention. Then he said to me, yeah, we're having an order coming week, this and that. And then he said like 17th of October. And I said, yeah, okay, cool. And then I thought, wait, what? October? I said, I want this bike this year. I don't care about it in the fall anymore. So it will be pretty hard to even find one in my size, because usually they have like medium, but I need like small. So I'm going to...
Yeah, it's like yeah, there I haven't really gotten on a bike since I
haven't either. I mean, I bought one like 15 years ago, 13 years ago, maybe used it for like 60 kilometers and then it just rusted away. And when I actually yesterday made these test rides, I mean, I still know how to ride the bike, but I felt so unsure about it because I didn't know how to actually drive on a normal street, because back then I didn't use it besides on like in the park or so. So it was
like
something.
I've seen some of these other ones in here that are kind of nice, but they're huge though, and it's like I kind of like I'd like something that has some storage space. Which actually, the one I'm actually going to be getting is. No, stop going to Amazon credit.
They are buying. Yeah, but what I was surprised that they are buying pretty expensive e-bikes. I mean, I thought these would be pretty easy to get, but no, not at all.
Yeah, these. Yeah,
I mean, what I'm actually gonna try tomorrow is, because the two bikes that I want are both from German manufacturers, and I'm gonna try to maybe use my YouTuber leverage to ask them for a review unit and maybe get it a little bit cheaper. I mean, I doubt it since I never really reviewed something like that, but I mean, it's worth a try if I can save some money.
By the way, it looks like Dave's got to head out, but thanks for hopping in and joining us. This has been great. There's yeah. But yeah, you have to let me know how that works for you for the bike.
We should actually wrap it up, because
absolutely, because you've got your stream coming up too.
I just noticed,
but yeah, so I mean, we honestly kind of hit all of our topics. Really, we've kind of gone the gambit, and we've had a whole lot of stuff going on. So yeah, just keep me. Oh yeah, also, what are you currently working on right now?
I still have a bunch of microphones. I think I have to review like 3 or 2, maybe, I don't know. I lost a little bit, but otherwise I still have one pair of speakers, 2 amps, and then I got 3 of those true wireless, so those are taking up. But otherwise I'm trying to slow down a little bit. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. German stream today. Yeah.
Heck yeah! Well, man, you are a champ getting these going. Thanks for hopping on such short notice. I messaged you last.
I mean,
it was early this morning for you, I think.
No, I actually expected one, because I know that we always do it pretty much in the first week of a month. And yesterday I thought, will he do it? Does it mean this week or maybe next week? But when I got it, I was kind of prepared, so I expected.
Yeah, because next week I'm going to be down visiting family in Nowheresville, Missouri, where the internet is a luxury. So
no, it's at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So in 5 minutes, pretty much. I just have to hop off right now and then switch it. Yeah.
But this has just been fantastic. Yeah, thank you everyone for hopping in. I'm gonna also post this video on my YouTube channel as well. So just check it out. Thank you guys for hopping in, and we'll see you guys next month on the Brosephs, and just have a kick-ass month and stay safe out there, everyone.
Yep, that's the important thing these days.
Yeah, absolutely.